Let us pray. O Lord, we give thanks for the bounty of our province, our land, our resources, and our people. We pledge ourselves to act as good stewards on behalf of all Albertans. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions.
I would like to ask that the petition I presented some days ago on the upgrading of Highway 794 to Highway 44, which some 400 and some West Loch and area residents asked the minister to get going, do something about it, be read again.
We, the undersigned residents of Alberta, petition the Legislative Assembly of Alberta to urge the government to upgrade secondary road 794 to Highway 44, which would improve safety and access for local residents and commuters. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
The honourable member for West Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to serve notice that directly after question period pursuant to Standing Order 40, I'd like to present the following motion. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta congratulate the Edson Kinsmen and the community of Edson as the slow pitch capital of Canada for hosting this coming weekend over 250 slow pitch teams from across Canada and from the north. And I ask for election.
Introduction of bills.
The Honourable the Provincial Treasurer.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 47, the Public Sector Pension Plans Act. This being a bunny bill, His Honour the Honourable the Lieutenant Governor, having been informed of the contents of this bill, recommends the same to the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, this piece of legislation is the structural bill which we will hold over to the fall session, but this bill is just as important as the first piece of pension plan legislation which introduced a week ago today, wherein the framework is followed in terms of governance, in terms of responsibility of the new boards of these groups, Mr. Speaker. It's an important piece of legislation which, in fact, reflects the agreement which we have reached with the 5 public sector pension plans.
The Honourable the Provincial Treasurer has moved first reading of Bill number 47, Public Sector Pension Plans Act. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 47, Public Sector Pension Plans Act, introduced by the Honourable Mr. Johnston, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Member for Banff Cochrane.
Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 53, the Highway Traffic Act. The purpose of this bill is to update the rules of the road to ensure that the legislation is effective, given advances in technology and the changing traffic patterns and needs. The Act responds to the requests from municipalities and reflects Alberta's commitment to implement the National Safety Code.
The Honourable Member for Banff Cochrane has moved first reading of Bill number 53, Highway Traffic Act. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. The Honourable Sorry, Mr. Miller.
3, Highway Traffic Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Evans, is now read a first time.
Deputy Government House Leader.
Speaker, I move that Bill 53, the Highway Traffic Act, introduced by Honourable Member for Banff Cochrane, be placed on the order paper under Government Bills and Orders.
The motion of the Honourable Deputy Government House Leader. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. The Honourable Member for Jasper Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce for first reading Bill 335, the Amusements Amendment Act 1992. The purpose of this bill is to restrict access to rental of X-rated and R-rated films to persons who are over the age of 18 in the province of Alberta.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Jasper Place has moved first reading of Bill 335, Amusements Amendment Act 1992. Those wishing to grant first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 335, Amusements Amendment Act 1992, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. McInnes, is now read the first time. And reports.
The Honourable Minister responsible for seniors.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to file response to motion for return number 221.
The Honourable Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs.
Speaker, this morning His Honourable Lieutenant Governor of Alberta proclaimed the Residential Tenancies Act. I'm pleased to table the news release and the accompanying regulations, which will go into effect August 1st, 1992.
Deputy Government House Leader, Minister of Advance.
Speaker, I'm pleased to table the following annual reports, 1989-90 and 1991 annual report of Grand Prairie Regional College and the 1990-91 annual report of Mount Royal College.
7 to go.
The Honourable Member for Banff Cochrane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to table a letter signed by some 150 Albertans asking the government of the province of Alberta to ensure that the province's logging policy protects ecosystems within provincial parks and other areas under provincial control.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to file with this Assembly a petition signed by more than 1,000 concerned Albertans from across the province opposing the privatization of the single men's hostel in Edmonton.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Speaker, I have a petition signed by 334 of my constituents requesting the Assembly to apply existing legislation prohibiting minors from viewing restricted adult films in theaters to video outlets selling and renting those same movies in video cassette form.
Introduction of special guests.
Honourable Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism.
Arigato gozaimasu, Mr. Speaker. Today we've got some visitors all the way from Hokkaido Prefecture, which is the twin prefecture in Japan, to Alberta. The delegation is here as members of a child ambassadors program that Obihiro City in Hokkaido has had underway for some time. I'm going to call out the names of the members of the delegation and ask that they would rise, and in just a minute we can give them a warm welcome. With us are three young from Obihiro City, Yuyu Hatakiyama, and I would ask that he would stand up. Also, Hikaru Hondo and Midori Sakashita, who are the three young child ambassadors. They're accompanied by two adults from Obihiro City as well. Hiroyoshi Kobayashi, who is a teacher at a school there, and Shin Shabata, who is a reporter with the Tokiichi Mainichi Newspaper Incorporated and also the cable system there. They're also accompanied by representatives from the Edmonton Junior Chamber of Commerce, Joseph Lung and Carly Hurl. I would ask that they would stand. And also, there's half a dozen youngsters here who are also taking part in this exchange and welcoming our visitors from Japan. I'd ask that they would stand, as well as Mark Rasmussen from our department, who was here hosting them, showing them some dinosaurs and things. And I would ask that the members of the Assembly say konnichiwa, would say konnichiwa in the usual fashion.
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you know, my colleague, the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, and I are ex officio members of the Alberta Roundtable on the Environment and the Economy. And today, Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly three representatives from the Roundtable who are in the members' gallery today. They are David Bromley, the founder and president of the Alberta-based environmental engineering firm, David Bromley Engineering Limited. Doug Catran, vice president, manufacturing hydrocarbons and energy of Dow Chemical Canada Incorporated. And Donna Tingley, the executive director of the Environmental Law Center here in Edmonton. This group of Albertans represents a wide range of interests, views, and sectors of society, all working together to reflect a balanced approach to achieving economic, environmental, and social objectives. I would ask that they rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Vegreville.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you and to other members of the Assembly two people who, though born in different decades, are here celebrating their birthdays today. Would honourable members join in welcoming the member for Edmonton-Calder and the member for Bonnyville?
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly, and I believe he's present in the public gallery this afternoon with a delegation of physicians from the Alberta College of Family Physicians, Dr. David Moores. Would he please rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly?
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Honourable the Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Friday, the Minister of Telecommunications admitted publicly that Novotel decisions involving millions and millions of taxpayers' dollars were not even reviewed by this government, Mr. Speaker. When you think about it, it's really unbelievable. But, Mr. Speaker, in the same breath, though, the minister said, well, shucks, it wasn't his fault. He blamed Novotel management. What? Me not worry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, obviously this minister has a peculiar concept of ministerial accountability, Mr. Speaker. In fact, he's obviously totally unaware of it. It was his responsibility to know, Mr. Speaker. My question to the minister is simply this. How can this minister justify not reviewing decisions by Novotel management that can continue to cost the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars?
Well, Mr. Speaker, all that was said was, and it's a matter of fact, that the day-to-day operations of Novotel Finance, Inc., which was a subsidiary of Novotel, which in turn was a subsidiary of the HT Commission, and that the day-to-day operations with respect to that company were handled by people who were involved in the systems finance business in the marketing area of Novotel. And so each one of those particular applications with respect to financing did not come across my desk, and I think that would have been anticipated, Mr. Speaker.
It's supposed to come across your desk. When you're losing millions of dollars, didn't that send any warning bells out to the minister, Mr. Speaker? It's unbelievable. Mr. Speaker, but my question, they don't seem to have learned any lessons, Mr. Speaker. The control is so lax that the treasurer of Novotel, Peter Mitchell, has now moved over to work on the collection of the Novotel loan portfolio for Northwest Trust, Mr. Speaker. Now, these are the same people who got us into the trouble, the ones he's blaming, Mr. Speaker. My question to the minister is simply this. How does he justify keeping senior employees on the government payroll to collect Novotel debts when they couldn't do it when they were in charge of Novotel?
Mr. Speaker, the provincial treasurer has dealt with the matter of the management of the systems finance portfolio. He's described that to the members of the House. They will serve in that capacity, and I won't go into that. The provincial treasurer may want to augment my response. But the Northwest Trust obviously felt that they wanted some people involved that knew the history of the particular accounts, and they felt that that would be valuable. That was their decision, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, isn't this ironic? You hire the same people that the minister's blaming, on creating the mess. That's a brilliant business acumen by this government, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, frankly, the minister has admitted that he is lax in his job. And he can't hide behind the Auditor General. He can't hide behind Novotel management, Mr. Speaker, because of these massive losses of taxpayers' money. My question to the minister, he's had time to think it over, and I've told that he has some sleepless nights, Mr. Speaker, and I can understand that. Will he now do the honorable thing and resign and accept responsibility that he should, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, the answer is no. I've indicated that I would abide by the Auditor General's report. That's where the decision should be made after the review is looked into. And I'd be glad to receive that report and to see what the Auditor General's conclusions are with respect to it.
Main question, Honourable Leader, the Opposition.
That's an easy out, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to designate my second question, the member from Edmonton Jasper Place.
Well, member for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Speaker, the Canadian forest industry, in particular the pulp industry, is having some difficulty convincing the public that they're the correct agency to manage our forests in this country. This afternoon, the Assistant Deputy Minister in charge of the Forest Service, Dr. Ken Higginbotham, is holding a news conference together with a group called the Friends of Environmental Education Society. And they're announcing that 31 teachers will be taken on a all-expense-paid tour of several demonstration forestry projects in Kananaskis, Hinton, and Lac La Biche this summer, partly funded by the taxpayers and partly funded by the industry. I would like to ask the Minister why this same tour doesn't also include the environmental damage in the Naylor Hills Keg River area, or the 5-kilometer-wide clear cuts in Wood Buffalo Park, or perhaps the destruction of caribou habitat in the northwestern part of the province.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised the honourable member would take that kind of tactic in his question. With respect, I was surprised last Saturday to read in the paper that he's made comments with respect to the educational curriculum that is under review at the moment, because the honourable member for Jasper Place was provided with a draft copy for his review and comments, but he didn't take it as a draft copy. He tried to present it as if it was a final copy. And he took 770 pages of material and tried to pick out 2 negative comments, just like he's picking them out now. Mr. Speaker, we take the education seriously. We have nothing to hide in this province, and we're taking to show them the forestry practices in this province, and they're always under continuous review, but we don't approach things on a negative way that the honourable member for Jasper Place does.
Well, Mr. Speaker, since the Minister mentioned the forestry curriculum, which has been in use in schools since January, I'll ask him about that. Can he tell me if, in fact, it is the position of the Forest Service, which wrote this material, that, quote, profit, after all, is the most important reason for our forests? Is that the department's position?
Yeah. Claire? Mr. Speaker, I'm so pleased that he asked, because I know profit to the NDP is a dirty word. I mean, it's just an awful dirty word. But I go back, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member for Jasper Place was presented with a complimentary copy of a draft educational curriculum, and he was to review that and provide his comments. Out of 770 pages, he pulls out 1 negative comment. I have 2 things I'd like to raise, Mr. Speaker. First thing, he seems to get all confused of what the Alberta Forest Association really is. He thinks that some industry association. The draft material that is under review for the teachers is being reviewed by 30 teachers in Alberta education, environmental groups, Edmonton Public Schools, Bennett Centre, Mutart Conservatory, University of Calgary, the Environmental Centre, and the University of Alberta forestry staff. All of those are reviewing and presenting their comments. Just like his comments will be taken under review, that part of it may or may not be edited out. Mr. Speaker, I must also say that what we want to have is a proper educational curriculum in the schools, and we're in the process of developing that. If he would take a realistic, honest approach, provide his comments, we'll take it under consideration. Way to go.
Every business must earn a profit if it's to survive. That's a fact, but that's not the same as saying that that's the purpose of a forest. Listen, you silly man, only God knows why the forest was created, and God didn't create it for the purposes of profit in the forest industry. I'm reasonably sure of that. The same document, which is now in use in schools, and I'd like the minister to know that I couldn't get a copy from the department. I had to go to the Forestry Association to get it, states clear cutting is the most effective way of foresting. It's less expensive to harvest trees, less expensive to reforest, and other methods leave the poor trees exposed to the wind and the cold. You know, so we have to kill them to put them out of their misery. My question is simply this. Why is his department presenting these things to kids in schools as if they were truth as part of the curriculum in the province of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking at the honourable member and tell him to read my lips. If he's got concerns about the educational curriculum, He has the responsibility to provide those comments, and they'll be looked at. Instead of playing some silly politics with something, try and do the right thing.
Here, here.
Yeah.
The Honourable, order, please. The Honourable Minister of Education wishes to...
Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Education, I think it's my responsibility to report to members of the Assembly about the curriculum that's taught in our schools, including the fact, Mr. Speaker, that this material that has been prepared under the auspices of the Alberta Forest Association originates in the province of Ontario, where it is being used by 7,000 teachers in the province of Ontario, originally created by the Liberal government there, and now under the auspices of the NDP government. Mr. Speaker, I think it's...
Look at the red face! Look at the red face!
Look at the red face.
I think it's fair to say, Mr. Speaker, that this material has been field tested in 35 schools in this province. It is under review, as the Minister of Forestry has said, and as a result of that review and the revisions, we are going to have a better product for it, Mr. Speaker.
Look at the red face. The Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party.
A little more decorum here, a little more decorum. Mr. Speaker, in documents filed in the United States under Freedom of Information legislation, a company known as Cellular Information Systems, CIS, has stated in those documents to the Securities and Exchange Commission that substantial claims existed or exist against Novotel. We now know from the minister that a $60 million money infusion by Novotel into CIS was reduced down to $30 million. It's clear that these substantial claims had something to do with it. My questions to the minister are these. The minister has had time to review the CIS file, and I'd like him to tell Albertans what those substantial claims were that allowed for a reduction from $60 million down to $30 million of Alberta taxpayers' monies.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk about this particular account, particularly when it's just one of a number of instances where false information, misleading information has come from the opposite side of the House. There are allegations of a new loan. There was no new loan. Well, now to say it. Well, there interest-free loans, there are no free loans. Mr. Speaker, the answer to the opposition, leader of the Liberal opposition, the company was in an account about $60 million. There was a sale of about 7 properties. There was a credit towards the amount that was then owing, and there was a restructured amount of 35, and that will proceed.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it sounds pretty thin as the basis to write down a loan from $60 million to $30 million, incredibly thin. And this is why we have the difficulty that we're seeing. No monitoring by the minister and no care by Novotel. My second question to the minister is this. The minister has now had an opportunity to examine all of the American files that Novotel dealt with, the corporations. I'd like to have the minister tell Albertans how many more problems with substantial claims that these other corporations have against Novotel that will see the same thing, a reduction of monies that we've given reduced to half or less, and Albertans can't recover that money.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable leader misses the point. There was a sale of properties and proceeds applied that reduced the amount of the outstanding loan. The situation is, and as I've indicated in the House, there is absolutely no indication that the current provision with respect to potential losses on the entire system is inadequate in any way.
Mr. Speaker, this assembly will soon be coming to an end, and to me and to Albertans, the evidence is clear. The evidence is clear that the government was negligent, and particularly the minister responsible for Novotel. The minister is the one who went to the people of Alberta, took the money out of their pockets and gave it to Novotel, and they acted like they were Robin Hood, giving money to everybody. I want the minister. He refuses to say that he's prepared to resign. I want the minister to tell Albertans why he continues in the position, why he continues on as minister. Give us the reasons why parliamentary responsibility doesn't mean anything to this government or to this minister.
Mr. Speaker, if one were to judge the honourable leader on the basis of the information he has provided and made his categorical statements in this House and beyond, then with that degree of irresponsibility and that degree of political motivated grandstanding, he should resign.
The honourable member for Smoky River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A number of my constituents, as well as my colleague from Grand Prairie, Bob Elliott's constituents, representing school boards, school jurisdictions in the county, as well as the public and the school systems, have expressed interest in Bill 41's provisions that will enable school boards to decide voluntarily to merge their operations to deliver educational services more effectively and efficiently. Could the Minister of Education advise the Assembly just when he foresees the first group of school boards that could be coming together?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the matter of boundaries and the large number of school jurisdictions in this province has been the subject of debate for quite some time. And rather than simply continuing to talk about it, the provincial government has taken the step the honourable member has suggested, described, and that to put in place enabling legislation to allow school boards to voluntarily merge their operations with the purpose of delivering a more effective and, frankly, a more efficient educational service. As for when, Mr. Speaker, I introduced legislation on behalf of the government, Bill 41, a little over a week and a half ago, and I said at that time that it was the government's intention to pass that legislation this year. I said that depending upon the reaction that we received, we could proceed quickly this spring, or depending upon the reaction that we would hold the matter over and pass the bill in the fall. Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to advise members of the Assembly that because of the concerns raised about some parts of the bill, the government will recommend today approval at second reading stage and propose that it be discussed with Albertans over the summer and with the full intention of the government to pass the bill in the fall session.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This may indeed disappoint some of my constituents as well as some members of the Francophone community. What assurances can the Minister of Education give that the government remains committed to the general principles of this bill?
Very clearly, Mr. Speaker, the government has proposed a balanced and a fair and equitable made-in-Alberta model for Francophone school governance in the province. It complies with the Supreme Court judgment. It is right, it fits within the Alberta context, and it's right for Alberta children, Mr. Speaker, and we will approve it at second reading in principle today, and then we will bring it back for final approval in the fall. But as for the other provisions of the bill, Mr. Speaker, including regional divisions, school fees, homeschooling, school board quorums, these are issues that have really been debated at length, and in some cases, Mr. Speaker, ad nauseum they have been debated. But I want members to know that the approval in principle at second reading today should send a strong message from this government and hopefully from all members' assembly that Francophone Albertans will have their rights met under Section 23 of the Charter, as well as all Albertans, those who want to see a more effective and efficient school system, that the bill will accommodate those needs in the fall session as well.
The honourable member for Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some time ago, the Minister of Health announced changes in the program for out-of-country substance abuse treatment programs. She said the changes would help Alberta government to preserve and improve our health system in Alberta. No kidding, Alberta programs cost $100 a day compared to $700 a day for U.S. treatment programs. Unfortunately, some of these cost-effective community-based programs aren't seeing much of the money from this change in policy. For example, the Riverside Villa Treatment Program in Calgary are closing their facilities in September, and that comes after the announcement of temporary closures at the George Spady Center in Edmonton. I'd like to ask the Minister what she's doing to ensure that cost-effective Alberta-based programs aren't going to have to cut services, especially given that funding for out-of-country programs are being cut.
Speaker, the question is really one that should be directed to the Minister responsible for seniors, who has responsibility for the community residential portion of our treatment for substance abusers. With respect to the acute care inpatient responsibility of the Department of Health, I can advise the honourable member that we are looking at putting in place some acute capacity within the Foothills Hospital in Calgary, but that would be just on an inpatient basis. But with respect to community and residential, I would ask the honourable minister to respond further.
Minister responsible for seniors.
It's true that Mr. Speaker, that some of the programs are going through some transitional period for a variety of reasons. I can say that ADAC put 2.5% more funding into each of the agencies' budget that has been referred to this year over last year. And I can tell the honourable member that in the case of Riverside, for instance, programs that are being initiated in the Northwest Territories are having a significant impact on Riverside programs themselves. But yes, they are being impacted, but I would remind the member that there is a finite amount of dollars, and we are doing the very best we can with what we have.
Well, out-of-province programs are being cut, so you'd think they'd at least make sure that the Alberta programs are being supported. The Riverside Villa is only one example, is getting hit by this government from several directions. At the end of May, they got word from the Solicitor that as of July 1st, funding would be terminated. I'd like to ask the Solicitor General, considering that alcohol and drug abuse play a big part in the lives of Albertans that come into contact with the judicial system, and that his department recently raised funding for a comparable program for men, how does he justify this last-minute unfair cut to Riverside Villa in Calgary?
Mr. Speaker, I'm awfully glad that you asked the question so we could clarify a few of the facts. We fund a tremendous amount of agencies through the Solicitor General's Department for various correctional direction and treatment facilities. I have a list here, and I won't go through them in detail, of some 65 agencies that we fund. The Riverside Villa was funded last year at the tune of $9,168 by the Solicitor General's Department. We used it 14% of the time. That was to contract one bed. We used it 14% of the time on a yearly basis, 365 days. You can figure out how many days we used it. And therefore, this year we offered them a contract of $25.11 a day for the days we used it. Now, they refused to sign that contract, and so that's where it stands at the present time. Now, the minister has said that ADAC does fund it. In 89-90, they funded it for $409,500, and it has been increased 2.5% this year. There has been a component of treatment contract withdrawn from the Northwest Territories, but I doubt that the total budget, the reason for this operation, saying that it will close, is because of the Solicitor General's Department, and we cannot, with the plethora of treatment contracts we have here, with cities of Edmonton, Calgary, and as I say, some upwards of 100 contracts, we have to make decisions that are fiscally responsible on behalf of the province of Alberta and get the best bang for the buck we can, whether it's treatments or whether it's health care or whether it's in law and order.
Way to go. Good answer. The honourable member for Calgary Northwest.
Mr. Speaker, my question today is to the provincial treasurer. Peter Mitchell, formerly of Novotel Finance, involved with the disbursement of the $300 million in loans that the government's already written off $86 million of, has now been hired by Northwest Trust to attempt to collect these loans. Now, this has occurred despite the treasurer's assurances to the contrary. June the 25th, 1992, in Hansard, where the treasurer said, quote, "What Northwest Trust has brought on board has been the collectors," close quote. So my question to the provincial treasurer is, why is Peter Mitchell now overseeing the collection of these loans when he was involved with the administering and disbursement of these loans in the first place?
Here, here.
Mr.
Speaker, this is the same question the member asked on Friday. We hired 4 different people, Mr. Speaker, so I'm sure that he can extend the question period for 4 different days on that very point. Here's the facts, Mr. Speaker. Northwest Trust does not incur any liability. Its cost will be reimbursed by collection fees from the assets. The people who are collecting the fees are well familiar with the files, and therefore they're familiar with the people involved and familiar with the terms of the agreement, and they're the most suited for the collection process.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's exactly the concern. We're afraid he's a little too familiar with the terms of the collections here. So my supplementary question is, given Mr. Peter Mitchell's role in the Novotel financing, how could the government allow this individual to be hired by Northwest Trust when, in fact, he's probably going to be part, and his activities are probably going to be part of the investigation into Novatel's business activities? Why this fellow?
Well, the member just doesn't understand what he's talking about. First of all, if he's making some inference about the character, the ability of the gentleman named, then I would invite him to step outside and make the same accusations that I offered the same opportunity to the member from Norwood. I noticed the silence outside the Legislative Assembly by the member of Norwood when he made similar kinds of acquisitions. Well, I'll ask you outside the House, what is it you speak of, Mr. Speaker? The member has the same right. If he has the courage to make the same kind of accusations outside of the House, rather than stand up and be counted, Mr. Speaker, then he should do it. Other than that, this is the classic red herring. And I will not stand for slurs to people working for Northwest Trust or inferences on the character of people that he is now protected with the immunity of this Legislative Assembly against further litigation should he cause any kind of a condemnation of any individual. Let him step outside and make that accusation, Mr. Speaker. Then we'll see whether or not he's got the courage of his convictions.
Here, the honourable member for Calgary Foothill. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand that the Energy Resources Conservation Board today released its report on the 2 competing pipeline projects, PGT and Altamont, which both propose to move additional volumes of Alberta natural gas to California consumers. I was wondering, Mr. Speaker, if the Minister of Energy could explain whether or not the ERCB's report contains any definitive conclusions as to whether either or both pipelines will proceed.
Mr. Speaker, last fall the government directed the Energy Resources Conservation Board to conduct a call for information on the 2 pipelines to take more natural gas to California, and that was through an order in council, as I indicated. The intent of the call for information, Mr. Speaker, was not to make a decision, not to indulge in any subjective or objective views about the 2 competing projects. It was simply to enable the projects to cross-examine each other, assemble information, and assist the producers in their decision-making process. The report does not conclude that one or the other or both of these projects should continue. But what has happened, Mr. Speaker, is that there has been assembled a very significant and comprehensive data package on the 2 competing projects that there is available on this continent. It will form one of the many tools that the producers will use to make their decisions as to which project should go ahead to California, if either, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, again to the Minister of Energy, I was wondering if he could report as to whether this report brings to a close the debate on the California pipeline issues, and if not, what are the next steps?
To the contrary, Mr. Speaker, in many ways the debate will continue to rage as to which of the 2 projects competing to take gas to California is the most viable. This process was extremely useful to the producers and, for that matter, to the government. Both the government and the Energy Resources Conservation Board must ultimately make decisions on removal permits, so there is a role for government in the end, Mr. Speaker, and this information will allow us to do that. The next step will be for the producers to incorporate this information into other information that they will collect to allow them to make their decision. Those decisions include price projections for natural gas by competing sources in California, whether or not the market demand, the growth over the coming decade will be there to support increased natural gas, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, on an issue that is not based on an economic model, but on the issue as to whether or not there is additional risk to moving more gas into a state such as California, where there is an uncertain regulatory environment. And so those issues will all be incorporated into their decision-making process and will enable them to make the right decision in the end, Mr. Speaker. We are monitoring very closely the progress of these two projects, and we'll work closely with the producers to make the right decision. And that is, what is the right decision in terms of the market and the environment to do business in the future?
Member for Edmonton Avonmore.
My questions are to the Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, fetal alcohol syndrome is the leading cause of mental retardation in Canada, a cause which is totally preventable. Recently, the House of Commons Committee on Health and Welfare issued a report making numerous recommendations to prevent, diagnose, and treat fetal alcohol syndrome. The committee heard testimony of one woman who indicated that after ending a working day, she would often consume one drink during meal preparation. This woman bore a child with fetal alcohol syndrome. My question, what steps is the minister prepared to take to ensure that women and their partners know that there is no safe level of alcohol consumption during pregnancy and that women should totally abstain while pregnant?
Mr. Speaker, we've received the report of the House of Commons and are certainly looking at it in the context of attempting to promote good health for all Albertans, not just pregnant mothers. I think the issue is one that warrants all of our understanding, certainly in terms of ensuring that all people respect their health and the choices they make in their own health is an important part of the Health Goals project, which is underway with the support and collaboration of all of the provincial associations and many Albertans generally as we evolve those health goals.
Thank you. Thank you. To the Minister of Health, the committee reported that they had received much testimony indicating that healthcare professionals, social welfare agencies, educators, and officers of the judicial system were often unaware of the existence of fetal alcohol syndrome and were therefore insensitive to the special needs of alcohol-damaged children and their parents. To the Minister, what steps is the Minister prepared to take to develop and implement education programs for health, social welfare, school, and judicial system personnel to ensure that there is recognition and treatment of fetal alcohol syndrome?
Again, Mr. Speaker, I would repeat that we are looking at the steps that we might effectively take in Alberta with respect to this and many other illnesses which are preventable. The College of Physicians and Surgeons, the Alberta Medical Association, the Alberta AARN, our Registered Nurses Association, and many other professional groups will be reviewing the recommendations as well. And I think, again, it points to the need for collaborative efforts as opposed to a single department of government effort in order to address the health needs and efforts that Canadians can make.
A member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are for the Attorney General. For some time now, there's been increasing demand on the legal aid system due to the recessionary circumstances and the inadequate resources. And once again, we find the legal aid system in a financial crunch. To the Attorney General, given the concerns recently raised by the Criminal Trial Lawyers Association about cutbacks in both preparation time and in the fee limitations for representation of legal aid clients, what is the Attorney General going to do to ensure those who can't afford a lawyer receive a proper legal defense?
Mr. Speaker,
I think the concerns that are being raised about the legal aid plan are probably at best trying to engender some support for added remuneration, because frankly, we have increased our legal aid budget over 42% in the last 2 years. I might mention that the legal aid is delivered by an arm's-length organization called the Legal Aid Society of Alberta, the partners of which are the government and the Law Society.
Mr. Speaker, I thought this was all settled through tripartite negotiations last year, but obviously it's not. It's cost taxpayers millions of dollars to pay for the legal defense of the Cormies, and we don't have adequate funds to provide legal aid. Last year, the Attorney General was forced to put through a special warrant of over $4.3 million because he had under-budgeted for the legal aid expenses to the Attorney General. Given the increased demand for legal services because of the recession, can the minister explain whether or not the current budgetary allocation will be sufficient to properly fund the system?
Mr. Speaker, indeed, there were tripartite negotiations that went on between the Legal Aid Society, the Law Society, and the government. In fact, there was a contribution made by the Law Society through the Law Foundation of 25% of the interest earned on trust accounts would be put into the plan. The government would pay the balance. We, in fact, did. That particular year, we increased our budget from 15 million plus to 22 million plus. We have since, as the honourable member increased last year by a special warrant, again, 4 million. In this budget year, which we've just started in April, we gave an additional 11% increase over last year's figures. We have said to the Legal Aid Society, that's it. You organize your plan as to how you're going to deliver legal aid with those dollars, because it is not an open-ended fund.
The honourable member for West Loch Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Sunrise residence in Calgary is a native co-ed alcohol and drug treatment center, Mr. Speaker, who has to close down its program for about 2.5 months here because of the lack of the funding and the Solicitor General's rather mindless method of saving funds on rehabilitation. It is the only native-run, off-reserve, co-ed native program of this type in the southern part of the province. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Solicitor General whether he'd reconsider his move, I know, in his attempt to save money, but this is one area where a dollar saved is going to cost us 5 down the road.
Well, once again, as we get into this area where the questions keep coming on the judgments that we have to make on behalf of the taxpayers and the deliverance programs, once again we see a member outlining and trying to insinuate that we don't address our responsibility as it relates to these type of programs. I have before me a list, and as I said, I've been holding it up here for several dates while there's been questions asked. But I could start down through this, Mr. Speaker, and you can stop me when you wish to.
Go ahead. Let her rip. Let her rip. You read it.
These are community-based supervision training programs funded by the Solicitor General. City of Calgary, probation, 800...
Order, please. Yeah, perhaps the Honourable Solicitor General could just say the number of people, number of projects that are involved, instead of naming them all.
Well... If I don't want to hear the answer, I sit down.
Supplemental question?
Mr. Speaker, the Charlie McCarthy over there of his back bench apparently is completely lost. Mr. Speaker, Charlie McCarthy was one of my heroes. I hope he's not thinking insulted, yeah. I mean, okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the minister, then, who is sulking in his chair there, could the minister first of all, table the document that he's quoting from and the number of services he has, and give some possible explanation to the House why the only co-ed native program in southern Alberta for rehabilitation, all problems has been cut off.
Mr. Speaker, it isn't the only program in southern Alberta, and there are other avenues for treatment in southern Alberta. And as a matter to address his first comment, will I table this in the House? I will, absolutely.
The honourable member for Highwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions today are to the Minister of Labour. One of my constituents, Mr. Speaker, has informed me that when the power goes down on a high-voltage electrical transmission line, that the main power line may be manually re-energized, often before the cause of the outage has been determined. This, Mr. Speaker, creates a hazardous condition for the public, for the police, ambulance, firemen who may attend accidents involving power poles and pad-mounted high-voltage equipment. Will the minister have those responsible for electrical safety at Alberta Labour please look into this potentially dangerous situation?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me say that the officials in the Department of Labour are very much aware of this situation, and indeed they and all of the stakeholders are constantly reviewing this program or the regulations that govern. We have probably one of the widest stakeholder groups in existence in developing safety codes, in this particular case the Electrical Protection Act, and it includes local utilities and unions as well as others from across Canada and indeed in North American wide. So we are constantly monitoring it. The utilities follow the regulations and the policies that are set up in that cooperative manner and then apply their own procedures within it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My supplementary will be to the Minister of Labour. What about my constituent who happens to be an electrical systems operator? Would the minister tell us what sort of protection, the regulations and policies that she refers to, what kind of protections they give him?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In situations when high voltage power lines collapse, and there have been one or two, fortunately very few examples of such, you can never predict what the cause is, and often, indeed, you don't know what the cause is when it occurs initially. And so the policies and procedures are set up in a framework way to allow for decision-making on the site. There are, however, competing interests when this occurs. There is obviously the systems operator, which is the member's constituent. There are also police, fire, and other officials who attend at the scene. But then there are also other members of the public who can be affected because the power is out. And the first example that comes to mind is a hospital, for example, which relies on the power. Other examples are, frankly, people who are driving down the streets because the power lines are feeding the street, the stop signs, etc. So the policy allows for the most immediate response, which is to get the power back on, but also speaks to the danger inherent in the person who's dealing with the emergency. But in the very end, it always really comes down to the system operator's discretion and his judgment as he responds to every particular case.
For Vegreville.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last year in typical conservative fashion, the Minister of Agriculture canceled the auction market inspection program without adequate consultation with veterinarians, auction market operators, or livestock producers. Why did the Minister of Agriculture think it a good idea to cancel this important program and put livestock and the livestock industry in this province at risk?
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about a program that was canceled a little over a year ago on the suggestions of many auction mart operators in the province, where inspection was deemed to be necessary to increase the comfort level of the buyers. Various auction marts continued on their own to hire inspection services as was required. The change has now been in place for approximately a year and appears to be working very smoothly.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Registrar of the Alberta Veterinary Medical Association indicates that inspections are not going on at a number of livestock auction markets around the province, and animals are not only being put at risk, but farmers who buy livestock of questionable health are being put at risk as well. Now, I'd like to point out to the Minister, they saved under $500,000 a year, and they waste that much in a Novotel coffee break, for Pete's sakes, and yet they put the livestock industry at risk. And I'd like to ask the Minister, given that this experiment's been a failure, will the Minister agree to reinstate the auction market inspection program this year?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure on whose judgment this has been a failure. I've met at least twice in the last 8 months with the Alberta Auction Mart Association. None of them are lobbying for the reinstatement of this. I think the honourable member should be aware that even when inspection was provided, that was no guarantee of healthy animals. It was simply a visualization of animals that was being carried out. Most of our auction mart operators and most of our cattle producers and buyers can very easily identify normally if there's a sick animal in the larger animals. Many of the auction marts that are handling dairy cattle and hogs have continued on their own to provide the inspection service. As far as I'm concerned, the industry has matured beyond the days when we have to have a veterinary there at all times.
Please, might we revert briefly to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. The Honourable the Solicitor General. Get guest introduced.
Thank you.
Students from St. Pat's Junior High School in Camrose. They're escorted by 2 parents and their teacher. They're seated in the members' gallery, and I'd ask that they rise and receive the cordial welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Deputy Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it's just been brought to my attention. We have with us, sir, in the public gallery, the former Deputy Speaker of this Legislative Assembly, who served some 17 years in the House. I'd ask the Honourable Frank Appleby to stand and be recognized by members of the House.
As order, please, we'll deal with the Standing Order 40 request before the point of order. The honourable member for West Yellowhead gave notice prior to the question period that he would be seeking unanimous consent for a motion. The honourable member may speak briefly to the question of urgency.
Timely, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, it's urgent because the tournament has been held this weekend, and with the clock ticking, we're not too sure how many more days we'll be here, if any. Depends on the expediency of legislature, perhaps this evening. But, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask unanimous consent of the legislature to be resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta congratulate Edson Kinsman and the community of Edson as the slow-pitch capital of Canada for hosting this coming weekend over 250 slow-pitch teams from across Western Canada and the North. Mr. Speaker, last year we got unanimous consent because of some 200 teams, but quite an increase this year, and in fact, some members will be present and some members from the gallery are also playing in the tournament. 2 kinsmen I'd like to recognize, of course, right from the start, Jim Froggatt and John Martini.
Order, please. The honourable member is moving into what he might be saying if there was a debate on this motion. I believe the honourable member has expressed the urgency required, and so the question before the Assembly is there unanimous consent to allow the member to move this motion? Opposed? The honourable member may move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move my motion that I have previously read, and I would like to continue to, if I may, congratulate especially the Edson Kinsmen led by Jim Froggatt and John Martini the town of Edson, the citizens of Edson and area. There's volunteers, Mr. Speaker, from youth to seniors who volunteered many dedicated hours and many dollars. I also want to this chance, Mr. Speaker, thank the government and for the appreciated dollars from the Community Facility Enhancement Program especially, and from Community Tourism Action Plan. These dollars were well spent, and I'd like to invite all members of the legislature to attend between the 4th and 7th of this month in Edson to see the biggest tournament ever held in Canada, and as they travel, bring tourism and help the economy, and they'll travel a beautiful twin highway, Yellowhead 16 West. Good sport, good fun, and good for the environment.
The honourable member for Minister of Career Development and Employment.
Speaker, and to the honourable members of the Assembly, first I would like to thank the honourable member for the kind invitation to attend the event as it is proposed. I am not, Mr. Speaker, speaking against the honourable member's intent of the motion, but first would also as well like to congratulate the Edson Kinsmen for undertaking this special event. But, having said that, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the motion really is hypothetical and is an anticipation of an event that is yet to happen. Right. If you were to read the motion as it is written, it certainly clearly undertakes, and it does say, for hosting this coming weekend over 250 slow-pitch teams from across Western Canada to the north. Well, Mr. Speaker, that certainly is an anticipation. How do we know, Mr. Speaker, that it might be a rained-out event? Right. It might be canceled. The other major fact that there may be several teams unable to make it. They might not know where Edson is and not be able to find it on the map. And it's for these various reasons, Mr. Speaker, as well as I know there's many seniors support slow pitch. They participate into the seniors games, and I find that there'd be many other communities would like to vie for the title and for the honor of being designated as the slow pitch capital. And it's for this reason, Mr. Speaker, I must point out to honourable members that I would find it very disturbing that this would be awarded in anticipation in advance that the communities across Alberta would take exception to that designation.
For Cypress Redcliffe.
Speaking briefly to the motion, I have no problem with congratulating the Kinsmen for hosting the tournament. But, Mr. Speaker, really, slow pitch started in southern Alberta. It started with the Southern Alberta Summer Games. Started with the Southern Alberta Summer Games about 1971, I believe, in Cardston or Raymond area. And to say, I agree with the motion with the exception of slow pitch capital of Canada, because the town of Bow Island, where I happen to live, has held at least 3 or 4 national slow pitch championships, male, female, and mixed. So, Mr. Speaker, I have a little problem with that part of the phrase. Thank you.
The honourable member for Vegreville.
Mr. Speaker, if the member for Cypress Redcliffe wishes to amend the motion, we have ways and means of doing that in this legislature, but I would just like to say, true to fashion with the Conservative government, they're slow to pitch their ideas on this one. And for the member for Fort McMurray to suggest that he might not support this important motion indicates to me that he's clearly struck out on this one.
Is the Assembly ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion proposed by the honourable member for West Yellowhead, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. The honourable member for Edmonton Jasper Place on a point of order.
Speaker, on a point of order, it's well known in this Assembly and in the rules that the opposition has no right to insist on an answer to a question. If we did, I dare say things would be a lot better around here, but we don't, and we have to face up to that. But by the same token, the government is not allowed to dream up answers to questions that were never asked in the first place. And I would like to refer Your Honor's attention specifically to Beauchesne 417, which states answers to questions should be as brief as possible, deal with the matter raised, and should not provoke debate. Well, in question period, the Minister of Education sat in his place, hiding in the weeds, until I'd finished my third supplementary. Then and only then did he rise to his feet and introduce some totally extraneous debate about some program initiated by the Liberal government of Ontario
dealing with trees and forestry. Now, I have no candle for the Liberal government of Ontario, but I certainly didn't ask anybody about an Ontario policy, nor would I, because fortunately for us all, that's a dead issue, Liberal government in Ontario. But I think that the chair should call the minister to order, because he did sit there in the weeds and waited till the last supplementary was given before he stood up and introduced some material which is quite disorderly under 417 of Beauchesne.
Of education.
On the point of order, it's not surprise. It's June 29. The member is whining again.
Yeah.
But I refer you, Mr. Speaker, to Beauchesne sections 410.10, section 418 and 420, where it suggests, especially at 418, that the members may not realize it, but questions are actually put to the government. The government decides who will answer. And the Speaker has also stated, of course, the chair will allow a question to be put to a certain minister, but it cannot insist that minister, rather than another, should answer. Mr. Speaker, clearly the honourable member was putting questions forward in questions 2 and 3 with respect to school curriculum. The Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife was well briefed to be able to answer virtually all of the question, but I felt it important, Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Education responsible for the curriculum in our schools, to supplement his answer and to provide the honourable member with the full information, the full array of the facts.
You were well coached.
The honourable member for Stony Plain.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I couldn't resist but to answer the Minister of Education's rather silly interpretation of 418. That's directed specifically when a minister does not want to answer, or if somebody on the government side designates a different minister to answer. It certainly does not give the list of ministers to jump up and turn and use up all of question period, because if we took his interpretation of 418 to its logical conclusion, we'd get one question per question period. So I suggested to him that 418 doesn't apply. Secondly, information given in an answer should be supplemental and relevant to the question, which his answer was not. It had something to do with Liberals in Ontario and trees heaven knows where. So he is totally out of order, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
As far as the chair is concerned, as the chair recollects events as they happen, the matter of the curriculum came up in the first supplemental question, and therefore I would assume that the Honourable Minister of Education was giving the Honourable Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife the opportunity to make reference to that curriculum matter, which he failed to do, and therefore the chair does feel that this matter is within the purview of the Minister of Education to comment on, if he feels that the first minister didn't adequately answer the question, as has happened many, many times in this assembly before. Therefore, at most, I would say that this point is a disagreement between members. The orders of the day.
Government motions. Motion number 25, Honourable Mr. Stewart.